Austin Rasmussen is the spokesperson for Republicans Abroad in Norway, an independent advocacy organization, and he joins us now from Oslo. Thanks so much for being with us, Austin. Let me just start quickly with the early voting. And do you think, because of Trump's rhetoric against mail-in ballots, do you think he inadvertently pushed more people toward this early voting to bring them out in the record numbers we're seeing?
That may be an element for a small percentage, but the message that the Democrat Party has been putting out for a very long time now is to get out and vote early. They've been pushing this hard for as long as it's been an option. The obvious answer here, the biggest factor, is coronavirus. Democrats, a large percentage of them, are living in a fear, a mortal fear, and they believe that the early voting will save them from the crowds on Election Day. Now, this can have two consequences, generally, that can be positive for Republican voters, in that, one, Democrats will be less of an obstacle on Election Day when Republicans turn out to vote. It can be a disadvantage for the Democrats in the way that they, for quite some time, were selling this message of fear and using that as a motive to get voters to go out and vote as early as they could. Whether it be using mail-in ballots or now when it's possible to go in person and vote. The downside of that for the Democrats will be on Election Day. This message has been instilled for so long now that the idea is that the polling stations will be packed, will be full. And so for a lot of Democrats, especially those that are particularly enthusiastic to get out and vote in the first place, are going to be that much more discouraged to go on Election Day. Now, there's an obvious enthusiasm gap between Democrat voters and Republican voters. Throughout the United States, you have Trump rallies, whether it's Trump and his campaign themselves organizing these, or spontaneous rallies that have nothing to do with the campaign itself. You have thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans around the country who are excited and enthusiastic, right, and getting out for Trump, whereas for Joe Biden, he struggles to get, even 7 or 8 people at any of his events. And that enthusiasm gap is going to drive a lot of people out on Election Day.
Okay, on the general enthusiasm issue, people around the world are often shocked when they discover that, such an established democracy like the United States actually has relatively low voter turnout for presidential elections. So are you at least happy to see that this election, in spite of whatever the outcome is, could really produce record participation?
I think it's great that people are exercising their right to vote. I don't think maximum participation is always a positive thing, whether that, regardless of party affiliation. Just because someone has a right to vote doesn't always mean they should.
Interesting. They are voting, though. So is your feeling that, if Donald Trump doesn't win, we know what he said about contesting, an outcome that isn't in his favor. Do you think he will accept the outcome if it doesn't turn out the way he wants?
Well, I think that completely depends on the circumstances surrounding a potential loss. Right now, I'm fairly confident we're looking at a victory. It could very much look like the 2016 victory where the Democrat won the popular vote, but Trump could end up winning the Electoral College. And there are several key states that he needs to win in order to ensure a victory even through that route. Now, if it comes up that there are a lot of signs of voter fraud and the margins are close, then we could be looking at a situation like we had in 2000, where we're looking at recounts and investigation, and then needing the Supreme Court involved. But I think that's going to happen regardless of who is declared the winner. It could be Biden or Trump finding themselves in that seat.
Right. Austin, we're going to have to leave it there. We're completely out of time for this edition of the News Hour. I'd like to thank everyone so much for joining us.